From New York to LA, Chicago to Oakland, Ferguson to Albuquerque, Ohio to Española, regressive militarized police policies like shoot to kill are creating an open season mentality where officers, police chiefs, and the politicians that hire them are not accountable to the communities that pay their salary. And folks are made to feel afraid and suspect, unable to stand up for themselves against officers who act outside the law. On the day Española police officer Jeremy Apodaca shot and killed 16-year-old Victor Villalpando, at least 5 other individuals across the country lost their lives at the hands of law enforcement. In the 4 months since Victor's death, 423 people have been killed. A large percentage of those people have been under 30. That is all the names on these ribbons. Maybe not all, but a lot of them. There's a 5-year-old girl on those ribbons. We are losing a generation of young people to prison and death, all at the hands of the state, supported by militarized police forces with little or no accountability. Young, brown, poor, and the mentally distressed are routinely victimized by this rampant abuse of power. The state apparatuses responsible for prosecuting these violent crimes, prosecutors and grand juries, are not seeking to indict officers accused of using lethal force because prosecutors require the cooperation of law enforcement officers to move their cases forward. They do not want to jeopardize this relationship. And because police are assumed innocent, their actions are justifiable and beyond reproach. We know through the media and personal experience that this isn't true. The First Judicial Court grand jury met in secret in Santa Fe earlier this month and returned a justifiable homicide decision in the case of the killing of Victor Villalpando by Española police officer Jeremy Apodaca. News reports state that after reviewing the evidence for just 20 minutes, the grand jury returned a verdict. Whether you agree with the grand jury's decision or not, you can't argue the fact that at least Officer Apodaca received his constitutional right of due process. What did Victor receive? Where was his due process? Innocent until proven guilty did not apply to Victor that Sunday morning. It is not a crime to be a struggling 16-year-old. It's not even a crime in New Mexico to carry a firearm in the open. How come 3 grown men couldn't subdue a 16-year-old boy when his back was turned without the use of lethal force? What was the state of Officer Apodaca's mental health the moment he decided to pull the trigger? It took Officer Apodaca about 20 seconds to decide that Victor was a threat that needed to be eradicated. Not a person needing assistance. Not a boy needing an intervention. Not some mother's child. It's not just Apodaca that needs to be indicted. It's the system that spends more than 50% of its budgetary resources on the military, domestic law enforcement agencies, and prisons. The United States is one of the most repressive and brutal societies in the world, especially when it comes to folks of color. In April 2014, the U.S. Justice Department released a report condemning the Albuquerque Police Department's excessive use of force, including deadly force and violating people's constitutional rights. The report indicated that incidences of excessive force were not isolated, sporadic incidences, but patterns established due to systematic deficiencies, such as a lack of training, oversight, accountability, and policy, and that the incidences that occurred are not being properly investigated or corrected. And yes, Albuquerque isn't Santa Fe or Española. But if the largest police force in the state is operating outside the law, that sets a precedent and a message to smaller forces is that officers can operate with impunity and that lethal force is justifiable under any circumstance. We have to ask ourselves, what kind of community do we want to live in?